Guys, as I told you guys earlier, we have a very, very special guest that's coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. This person is near and dear to me. We essentially have grown up together, and to see her at this point in her life just do something so huge and so monumental, I am so excited that she's coming on to our platform to talk to us about it. And it's the little horror fanatic in my heart to see her create a book about so many of the things that go bump in the night, scary tales. Like, she is doing the damn thing, and I couldn't be prouder. And I am going to try to stop gushing so much because I'm just so proud of my very, very good friend. But we are going to feature this phenomenal woman. As we said, it's, International Women's Month, and it's very, very important that, we bring some light to our Black authors. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring up Miss Ally Russel. Hi, Ally.
Hi.
How you
How are
doing?
you guys?
Hey,
You almost made me tear up,
Oh.
and we haven't even started.
I mean, but everything that I said was absolutely true. And like I said, I'm so happy that you were able to come on our platform and talk about the amazing things that you were doing, because girl, this is something that, we've talked about, and we've written our own little short stories. So to see you become a published author, I'm just like, yo, she's so dope. This is amazing.
congratulations.
So
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So before I start, Pooh, as you said, we've known each other since we were what, 9, 10?
yes,
Am I allowed to call you Pooh on this show? And am I
absolutely.
supposed to call you Big or Kenny? Like, what do I call you?
Well, yeah, you can call me Big. That's
I
fine.
just know your childhood names.
That's fine. Whatever comes to whatever speaks to your spirit, you can call that. That's all right.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm
Absolutely.
so excited to be here and talk to you guys about the book and what I've been up to and what you guys are up to. So
So can I jump right in?
Yeah, sure.
So you wrote a book, right?
We actually have the
We have the picture of
Mhm.
it. Okay.
It's on my desktop.
I'll bring it up. But before we get into writing the book, talk about just the love of horror. Because I thought, as watching you guys grow up, I just thought that was the weirdest little thing that you guys just would not let go of Goosebumps and all that stuff after Halloween. Like, Halloween is over and y'all just kept it going. So just talk about your love of just the horror and where it comes from and how you feel about it.
yeah, I mean, you've been around, you both have been around my family, so you know that it runs deep. From my parents, like having all kinds of like Halloween parties, to all of my sisters also loving horror. Like that was a Friday or Saturday night like staple in our house. Like everybody just like gather in the living room, pillows, blankets, and we watched a scary movie. And like one of the first scary movies I ever watched, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old. It was Silver Bullet, based on a Stephen King book. And in the opening scenes, people were just getting like mulched by werewolves. But like that was like my whole childhood. Like that's what my dad grew up on, scary movies, scaring people. He used to like turn out the lights in our bedroom, and then he would stand there in the dark, and you knew he was still there, but he would just be real quiet, or he would do something like growl in like a really low voice. So this has just been like my whole entire life. So when I met Pooh, and it was like, wait, you love Goosebumps too?
Yes.
You love Halloween too? Like it was just like a friendship forever. So yeah, I never let go of it, obviously, as you can see behind me. So that's just my whole life, and it's the one thing that like brings me joy is spooky things and Halloween and all that.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, and I won't go down memory lane too much, but I will never forget when we all went to go see Signs, M. Night Shyamalan's movie. And we went, I want to say like at one of the super late showings or whatever have you. And it scared us to death where we would not go to sleep until like 6 o'clock in the morning. We were delirious.
But listen, I just watched that movie like last week. just so you know. And I think you and my little sister also put like a moratorium on, like I wasn't allowed to watch Signs, because after it came out, I was obsessed with it and I would like watch it like back to back. And every time I talk to you, you're like, "Are you watching Signs? Turn it off."
That's enough, girl. That's enough. And just so y'all know, there was a balance. We also would watch, Disney movies, one of our favorites being Mulan. And we also enjoyed like, the typical stuff as 13, 14-year-old girls did, Backstreet Boys and stuff like that. So there was a balance. We weren't like super creepy walking around with like ghost face masks or anything like that, but we did have a shared love for horrors, psychological thrillers, and just having that comfort of knowing that you didn't feel strange, because there was someone that you could talk about. And Goosebumps was huge, as you can still see. It's a classic. They keep remaking it. People love it, and it's nostalgia. So that's why I was happy to hear not only you coming out with a book, but then you were putting your own spin on a urban legend, Bigfoot. So can you tell us a little bit about It Came from the Trees?
Yeah. So this book kind of came, started thinking about it in like 2019. And then it kind of came out of like boredom during the pandemic. It was like, well, you can't go anywhere in 2020, you can't do anything. And I was working remotely. And it's amazing the amount of time you get back when you don't have to like travel back and
Mm.
forth to work. So like all that time I just like funneled into writing. So the book is, I am terrified of the woods, the dark, and ticks and heights. Like those are like my top four fears. I won't even like walk under too many trees because I'm paranoid about like ticks dropping. So I was like, well, how can I like combine? I love, stuff like missing 411, like people who go missing in the woods. Like I just think those cases are very scary, and a little bit fascinating, because like what is happening to like all these people who go missing in the woods. So I decided to like turn that into a children's book. And I thought, I think like, well, what's, who's most likely to be out in the woods? Okay, scouts. So and what's something creepy? Who, we also grew up on like, those spooky documentaries about like Bigfoot and like other cryptids. And Bigfoot was like always my number one cryptid. So I was like, well, how you put Bigfoot in the woods, and he's potentially like hunting children, and you've got a pretty scary story. So it's just essentially about the main character, Jenna. She goes hiking with her scout troop, and her best friend gets taken during that trip. She doesn't know by who or by what, but nobody believes her when she gets back. They think, oh, well, your friend just ran away. She was having some problems at home, and she's very adamant about the fact that no, her friend was taken. She knows what she saw. So she ventures back out into the woods to try to find her best friend again. And it's just about, her making new friendships along the way, and how she conquers some of those fears, because she is, the woods are like in her blood. She's grown up with it. Her grandfather is one of the first Black park rangers. So she has to overcome this. It can't be something that she's afraid of, because this is all she's ever known in her life. So yeah, focus on that. And I just dropped in all the things I am terrified of. I've never been camping a day in my life, so don't plan to go. So it's like, well, what scares me? This is it.
And I love that you were so intentional with it, from, like you said, making her grandfather the first Black trooper, and then having, characters of color and talking from their perspective. Like even the one text message that you sent me when you were talking about protective styles, and you're like, does that make sense? Like you were very intentional about this book, which speaks volumes, because, we aren't really represented in this genre. It's only until recently where we're starting to see more young adult writers that are of color, that are giving us, mystical creatures and, like you said, cryptics and things like that, where that was something that we wanted so badly growing up. And all we had was Goosebumps. But then now you are one of those people that's creating that lane. So I'm so proud of you. Girl, I'm so proud of you.
You're really gonna make me cry.
I know, right?
No, I very much hear you on that. It was like, the bulk of what we read, from a horror perspective anyway, was about white characters, because that's
Mhm.
all we ever had. And it's like, I'm ashamed to say this, like now, but I feel like it's the truth. Growing up, I didn't even know that you could have like black and brown characters as like
Mm.
main characters, because that was what had been conditioned into my head, is like, oh, well, as a black or a brown person, you're a side character, you're a sidekick.
Yep.
So it's very intentional to try to make this, you know, be a story that focuses on black and brown characters, but also, I'm trying to explain things in a way like, from black and brown culture in a way that makes sense to everybody, because I also don't want to, alienate people who, white readers need the story too. So I don't want to like alienate anybody, or I guess just make anybody feel like they can't identify, which is like the common thing when you
Right.
have black and brown
Mhm.
characters, books, movies. That's the common, oh, I couldn't identify, I couldn't connect. And it's like, well, why couldn't you? Like, we're, as black and brown people, we're forced to consume white culture regularly. So like I have never once said, oh, well, we can't connect with that character. So I just really want to like turn that idea on its head, because like, yeah, there's something like human about being in the woods, being afraid, being hunted. Like those are human things. It's not just related to race.
So I
Absolutely.
got a question for you, Ally, for the young, inspiring, or even older, inspiring people who actually may want to write a book. What what steps would you advise them to go on? And because I'm sure there was some roadblocks, or maybe even some times where you had to step away from the project and put it down. But what was it that caused you to make sure you seen this all the way through to publication?
Yeah, I think for me, it was like a deadline. Like I'm somebody who very much needs a deadline.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So there was this Twitter competition. I don't think it exists anymore. I think they got rid of it. But it was called Pit Mad. And so basically, you just pitch the concept of your novel. Your novel has to already be written, but you pitch the concept of your novel um, in a couple of tweets. Like you have like 3 tweets over the course of a day, and agents can then come and they can like your tweet. And if they like your tweet, then that means that they want to see your manuscript. Um, so for me, it was that deadline was very helpful. Without the deadline, it's like, oh, I'll get to the writing tomorrow. Oh, I'm too tired
Mhm.
today. I'll get to the writing next week, or I've got this other thing, or I'd rather read. So having that as a deadline is like a guideline. Okay, I need to have my book done. I think it was early March 2021. So it was
Mhm.
like, okay, I need to have my book done early March 2021. Like that was the thing that like made me keep going, after having like stopped so many times before. And there was a period where like I did write a book before that and submitted it to agents and got a bunch of rejections. And then the final rejection was like, well, there's nothing special about her writing. And that was the kind of the thing that like made me stop writing for like 4 years. Like I just quit. And it wasn't a woe is me kind of thing, like, oh, I'm so sad for myself. It was more just like, well, if there's nothing special about it, there's no reason for me to do it. Like I'm not adding anything to the
Mm.
literature world. So what's the point? Um, I don't know what made me pick it back up again. And decide, I think too, that it was just boredom during the pandemic. It was like, well, now I really don't have an excuse not to write. But the advice that I would give to people, I mean, is that there are tons of like blogs, and there's a lot of information out there about how to go about publishing a book. The traditional process is that you write your book, you send agents, a synopsis of your book and what it's about, and a query letter, like basically marketing your book, selling your book to them, because they get hundreds to thousands of pitches in like a month. There's a lot of competition out there.
Mhm.
So you query, you find a list of agents who you think you might want to submit your novel to. Sometimes some people have dream agents. I didn't. My dream agent was the person who took me on as a client. Shout out to Paige Turlip at Andrea Brown Lit Agency. So when you find your agent, you submit to them, and then you're going to get a lot of rejections.
Mhm.
It happens. When I did PitMed, I think I had 9 agents interested, and most of them I got rejections from them, and it was along the lines of, oh, I couldn't connect to this character, or, oh, I think this is fine, but it's not my kind of book. And that's fine. Like an agent really has to love whatever it is that they're uh signing sign any client that they're signing on, because that's going to be you're in it for the long haul. Like they're selling your
Right.
book, they're looking at your contract, so they really have to love it. So I understand that. But once you submit to them and you hear back from the agents, they're going to ask for the loan script. They send the manuscript over to them, and you'll either get rejected or they'll offer you representation, one or the other. And then from there, it's more rejection because you go to public. The agent takes the book to publishers, and then publishers the same thing. Like an editor might really like it, but if they don't 1,000% love it, they're probably not going to sign it just because a lot of people in publishing are overworked as it is. And so they really got to a lot of editors, they go home and they read on like nights and weekends. They're not reading while they're at work.
Yeah.
So that's a big investment. So you really want to make sure that you love the project. The one thing I would caution people against is unless you're doing self-publishing, if you didn't pay to publish, like when you do traditional publishing, no one should be asking you for money, not the agent, not the publisher. All of that is like, that's the whole point of like getting the agent, is that the publisher takes on all those costs. So I would just tell people to be wary of anybody who asks you for money, get a second opinion, and just try to look for reputable agents. There are some websites out there that'll tell you like, oh, this agency is not so trustworthy, or this one is. So those would be my tips to people. But the biggest one is like, you got to sit down and write however you can find the time, or wherever you can find the time to do it.
Cool. I think you got a question. I can't see, I can't see the screen.
I
Don't
got
be
you.
clowning me.
Do you ever get writer's block? And if you do, what do you do to find more inspiration?
I don't get writer's block, mostly because like that whole board behind me, you see how messy it is? That's literally just like book ideas. So if I'm like ready to write something, I just like go over to that board and like pull it down, and I get these like very random ideas. Like I'll be like boiling pasta for dinner or something, like, oh, it'd be a cool story. And then I gotta like scribble it down on like a Post-it note. So I haven't like experienced writer's block too much. Like sometimes I guess it'll hit in some fashion, like when I actually start writing out, like, oh, okay, how do I progress like this scene or this chapter from point A to point B? And if that's the case, I usually have a couple of I call them beta readers, but they're like a core group of people who read like my books and stuff like before I send them on to my agent or to my editor, so that they can like help me work through whatever the hurdle is.
And then, so we know that, Bigfoot is your favorite, but when you actually sat down and was, formatting your story, did you do any other additional research, or were you actually like looking at certain, films of people who have allegedly caught him, or stories or whatever have you? Like, what all did you do to really kind of piece everything together?
So I did a ton of research on like what it's like to go camping, because I will never in my life go camping ever. Like my friends have tried to get me to go, and I'm like, no, thank you. Have fun. See you when you get back. So I had to do a ton of research, like, would a scout, do this particular thing, or how would they determine like what to do if they're lost, or, what if they run out of water, or just all these like practical things that like I don't think about in the comfort of my own home. But it's really different when you're out in the woods, and like even something as simple as, oh, well, you have to go to the bathroom. Like, what do you do when you're out in the woods and you need to go to the bathroom? So stuff like that I did research on. And then just on the regular, like I listen to a ton of Bigfoot podcasts. Watch a ton of like those small town monsters documentaries. Like every time there's a new one, my husband rolls his eyes because he's like, we're gonna pay $6 on Prime or whatever for this movie that you've already seen a million times before. But it's not true. There's still more to be learned about. But yeah, mostly research on like the camping aspect of it, because I have no experience there. And one of my friends, one of my beta readers, she's super outdoorsy. Like she does like water skiing, like rock climbing, just like everything you can do outdoors, she's done it. So she kind of like vetted the book for me and was like, oh yeah, they do this, or they probably wouldn't do this, or here's how, they would handle the tent situation. So it was just a lot of help from beta readers and online research.
That is awesome.
And so, not giving your story away because we want people to purchase it and support, but is there any traditional authors that you kind of followed? Because, like, for example, like R.L. Stein.
Yes. Yes.
R.L. Stein, his thing is like the twists, like that. You know, when like in the
Mhm.
movie, what was that? Who played him?
Oh, Jack Black.
Jack Black.
Jack Black.
Yeah, they emphasized the twist. So, was there any authors that
Listen,
kind of
those movies all the
influenced that flag?
I guess from an author standpoint, Paul Tremblay is like a big source of inspiration for me because he does a lot of, some people call them found footage. Some people call it like epistolary mode writing, where like you've got like different media to tell the story. So the thing that I really love in books is when there's like, it's not just like a straightforward narrative, but like, oh, here's a newspaper clipping, or here's the missing persons report. That's kind of the format that I follow, because that's what I would have liked to read, when I was that age. And as somebody who loves the Blair Witch, that was like a huge source of inspiration for me. So, kind of having like that shaky camera feel. It's like, oh, you've got all this information at your fingertips that the main character is looking at, but you're not getting it through her voice. You're actually like seeing it through her eyes. So Paul Tremblay does some of that in his books. Like his books, he's got like blog posts and just other kinds of ways of telling the story.
Okay.
Now, the author that wrote The Children of Blood and Bone, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yes, she is celebrating the fact that, her book is going to be turned into a movie. If approached, how would you feel about that? Would you agree?
I think it would depend on who it was and what platform. Certain platforms, they get rid of stuff too quickly. And that would make me really sad. Like if somebody invested a bunch of time, energy, and money into like producing it or turning into a movie or a show or whatever, and then you couldn't access it anywhere. And I've seen that happen to a lot of authors, and it's really sad and really scary. So I think it would depend on who it was. Do you want my Easter egg, my horror Easter egg thing that I think and hope is true? Okay, so Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope, one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. There's a scene in the movie where you are listening to the radio and you hear about missing hikers or like missing campers in the woods. So my hope is that Jordan Peele is like looking to make a missing hiker, missing campers movie, and like somebody like Jordan, yeah, obviously. But I think it just depends on who it is. So
we won't speak that into existence. It's gonna happen. It is going to happen.
You heard it here first. I got that Easter egg.
Hello and good evening. Hey now, hey. But so for those of you who are watching, Ally's book is going to come out July of this year. You can pre-order it right now. And Ally, let everyone know where they can go to actually pre-order it. Because this is I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. They can go to penguinrandomhouse.com, or they can go to any place where you order books. So if you tend to order from Barnes and Noble, or if you like, I forget what the other bookshop.org, that supports all like indie bookstores in your neighborhood. So if you like to shop local, you can look it up on there. Amazon, it's on Target. That's the thing that made me tear up. I have a thing on Target's website. So any place where you typically buy books, you can get it from there.
That is so exciting. So when it comes out, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pre-order my copy. I also want a signed copy, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
I'll send you an advance. I'll send you a signed advance.
Girl, we want to set it right here. Like, my friend
we are.
did this.
We're gonna put it right here.
I'm so proud of you. Oh, girl, I was trying everything not to cry. I'm so proud of you. This is so exciting.
So before we go, I have a question though. Before you go, like outside of the horror, what do you read, or what are some top books that you might suggest readers to indulge in?
Oh, I really like murder mysteries.
Now, Ally, Ally,
is that too close?
I said besides horror, she was like, okay, no
murder
murder mysteries. Okay. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead. No, go. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's a different genre. Murder mysteries, I really like Maureen Johnson's Truly Devious series. That's one of my favorites. I have been doing a lot of nonfiction this year, and Insha Fitzpatrick has a series, and who we would have loved this growing up. It's called this. I'm gonna mess up the title because it's really. I heard you guys talking about long titles, and I feel like I'm gonna mess this one up. But it's like the supernatural field guide to something, but then each one has like a different one. So it's like chilling with ghosts, hanging with vampires. And she's a Black author. I love it. She's writing about like all the spooky stuff that like we loved growing up, vampires, ghosts, all that stuff. Her vampires one is so fun because there's like a garlic bread recipe in the book. It's got the best illustrations. So shout out to Insha if you are looking for like, those like unsolved mysteries kind of shows. Her book. Yeah, I've just been doing like a lot of nonfiction lately and murder mystery. That's probably what I recommend. I don't do a ton of fantasy, but I did read Tommy's book, and so I'm excited for it to become a movie.
Yes. But so once again, I want you guys to really, really support. I mean, we can't stress that enough on this platform. This is what we're doing it for, to shine light on our people, because it is TDS Radio, our voice, our culture. So I want you guys to take the time, go ahead, pre-order. It Comes from the Trees. Did I say that right? Yes. Right?
Yes.
Okay. By Ally Russel. And we have the cover, so we'll show the cover for you guys just so you know, and drop the links in so you can pre-order it as well. But please, please, please go out and support, and then do yourself a favor, gift this to someone. If you have a young adult in your family, or even if you are a fan of young adult fiction, I know a lot of y'all can't let Harry Potter and Twilight go, so go ahead and add this to the collection.
Right.
Because I'm tired of 40-year-old women talking about, oh, Twilight, girl, move on. So go ahead and add this to the collection, and I promise you won't be disappointed. Ally is brilliant as a person, as a writer, and I know you will enjoy this. And like I said, it is going to be displayed right here on TDS Radio. So every time you watch, you will be reminded to purchase it and support. And
she's from Pittsburgh.
Ally, I said it once and I'll say it again. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for taking the time to hop on and chat with us and talk about, your book. I'm super excited for you. I can't wait to read it. And we are going to make that one of our book club reads, because that's something that's coming up as well. Because I want you guys to go and support. There's no reason why you cannot go and support this book. So let's do it. Let's make some things rock and let's make some things shake. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we will be talking soon. And as we get closer, and whenever you want to jump back on and come and talk to us.
Yeah. You got another book you want us to come on and talk? If you got something you want us to read.
So I'll come back in 2025 and 2026 and talk about that.
Boom.
Cool. Sounds good.
You heard her.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ally.
Bye.
Bye.